If you want to learn how to sweep, you've come to the right place. Today we're going to go through the steps of how to sweep and ways of practicing to sweep pick. Sweep picking is an incredibly fun technique to use in your playing, and it can really help with your hand synchronization and the speed of your playing. We'll start off with the right hand. So when you're sweeping, instead of having the pick parallel to the strings like that, you want to slant it a little bit, just so it glides over the strings a little bit better, a little bit more easy. Whereas if I did it horizontal or parallel to the strings, it's a little bit harder. So maybe just tilt the pick towards the string a little bit more, and it's a lot easier to do that sweeping motion. When you're actually sweeping, instead of, which I see a lot in some playing, imagining it as picking each note, like you saw there. You see I'm bouncing across the strings as if I'm playing them as I'm picking. It's not quite that. It is literally a sweep. Okay? So it is just that. It's not picking each individual string. It is literally a sweeping motion. And that might be a little bit tricky to get down at first. It might feel a bit strange, but once you do, you'll get a lot faster at sweeping. Now moving away from the picking hand, we're going to move to both hands, which will be involved in muting what you have just played to get a more crisp, clean sound when sweeping. Because if I don't mute, it'll sound gross. Whereas if I do, it's a much cleaner, more enjoyable sound to listen to. So what I'm doing there is I'm using some palm muting. As you can see, my hand is following my pick. That's going to be a little bit tricky to get used to as well. But essentially my palm is following what I've just played. That's the only string that could be wrung out. And on the way back down, you can't really do that. So I like to, on the way back down, I use my left hand a lot more. So maybe sometimes I will use like this section of my fingers just to bridge over the string before, just to mute the string before. Or I will slightly come off the string a little bit slower, especially when I'm doing slow sweep picking, because it's a lot easier. And when actually playing the notes, make sure it is sounding properly and you're actually fretting properly instead of partially fretting, partially muting, because that can be a little bit tricky to do when going fast, going really fast, or trying to get faster by going fast and then coming back down a little bit afterwards. Just make sure you play it properly. Start a lot slower and build up to that fast pace. You're not going to be able to go really fast immediately, obviously, but it's going to be a little bit tricky. Just make sure you are sounding out the notes properly, and with some decent amount of force with the picking hand. It's not going to be completely like nice and light. It's going to be some force just to get the note sounding very nice. Especially on that shape as well. Especially on that shape because after when rolling my middle finger, sometimes I might miss that note. Like that, exactly like that. But yeah, just make sure you go practice slow and work your way up, otherwise it's not going to sound great. And now some cool ways to practice. You could start out by picking any shape you like. We'll maybe go on here. That's fun. And we can go in thirds on the way back down. That's quite fun to do. The change in pace can really help a lot with the synchronization part, because sweeping really helps synchronize your hands together. So maybe have a change in pace, for instance, with thirds. That will work with any 5-string scale. For instance. Literally anyone. That's a little bit tricky. That one is a little bit tricky to do. But yeah, that one works really well. You could also practice either the top or the bottom section. For instance, that's used a lot in solos. For instance, maybe it is Last. Bullet for My Valentine, a lot of their songs. It could be Last to Know. I can't remember properly, but Bullet for My Valentine, love doing this. Well, for obvious reasons, it sounds great. Also, the top part, or doing them both together, which I did mention in my last video on exercises to improve speed and accuracy, I think it was called. And this is really good to do, because the bottom section of the sweep is, in many people, a weak point, I feel like. Maybe because it's the thicker string, it might be a little bit more difficult to get a fluid motion. I don't know, but I did have the problem of that, and I've just practiced, and it got a lot better over time, and it really helps. So I recommend doing that. And also even picking a song or making a sweeping section of your own. Like, for instance, Altitudes by Jason Becker is amazing for it. Anything neoclassical, harmonic minor is interesting sweeping patterns. But yeah, Altitudes is a great song for it. There's many songs that have a lot of sweeping, and that's a really fun way to do it, because it's just it sounds a lot nicer than just going for like 20 minutes, whereas you can do a whole song or improvise your own sweeping thing. You can really do anything and have a lot of fun with this technique, because it is a lot of fun. And obviously, if you're brand new to this, just playing patterns on their own, just getting to grips with sweeping, take an easy pattern, for instance, just this one I use a lot, it's very common. Just go up and down the pattern, and then when you get a grip of that, maybe go to a different pattern. Do something like that. Yeah, just get to grips with the sweeping motion at a lower speed. Then progress with swapping to different patterns. There are some really tricky patterns, like that one's a little bit tricky, or even just this one. My bad. Yeah, there are some really tricky patterns, so you want to look at those as well. Particularly ones where you have to roll your fingers to a different string whilst trying to not have that string keep going, which is very tricky. But yeah, that's a great way as well if you're just beginning to learn how to sweep. Okay, so that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, please leave a like and subscribe. That would be much appreciated, and I will see you in the next one.